Hello and welcome back. This is The Lost Adventure, and today's module we're going over is going to be the Sword and Shield. The Sword and Shield was written by John Terra back in 1992. It was actually one of the modules that was part of the Thunder Rift setting. It is made for between 1 to 3 players of a martial class, so pretty much like fighters back then, or elves. You could be an elf too. Elves were fighter wizards. And these martial classes were supposed to be between levels 1 through 3. And the module itself primarily designed for just one player and one dungeon master. The adventure does provide ways to balance encounters for more than one player, or if they're playing a non-martial class. John Terra does a decent job at covering all the bases to include a martial class NPC that a non-martial class player character supports throughout the adventure. To put it bluntly, this adventure is really basic. It only spans about 14-15 pages, and a lot of that is descriptions. If you bought the module back in 1992, it came with a map and some cardboard cutouts you're supposed to use. There's not much here. I would say this module is designed for people that don't really have anybody else to play with. There's only 1 or 2 people that want to play the game, and this is how they can start playing the game. The storyline isn't exactly anything to write home about either. As a sort of like synopsis, the basics of the story is a long time ago there was a war between wizards and fighters, if you're familiar with the Thunder Rift setting. There is supposedly like a sort of like civil war that goes on between the 2 different guilds of wizards and fighters. And it devastated both of them, supposedly. This module is set in one of the last strongholds of the Fighters' Order, which was run by the infamous Black Knight, one of the last known remaining people of the Fighters Guild. Now, supposedly, this Black Knight from, a long time ago, had a son, and he didn't want his son to, inherit all of this power himself without having to earn it. So over time, before he died, the Black Knight slowly stepped back from public life, stopped running tournaments that he'd used to recruit fellow fighters into his guild or order, until eventually he just kind of disappeared into, not being known. Now, the son eventually grew up inside of a very run-down castle with little to no glory or gold, but he did have all this armor, and he remembered vaguely that his father used to be somebody pretty awesome. So he then went out and hired a bunch of lizard men and hobgoblins and the sorts, the usual bad guy mooks, to go out into the surrounding lands to kidnap old people who would be able to tell him how his father built up his really strong empire, kingdom, order, whatever you want to call it, back in the day. In short, the son of an infamous Black Knight is now kidnapping old people to tell him how his father used to be awesome. And this is where your player comes in. Your player is a resident of a village that supposedly was raided by a bunch of lizard men, but also received a letter inviting you, the player, the level 1 to 3 player, who is somehow known for his martial prowess, to go to this one location for a grand tournament that the Black Knight is running. Yes, this storyline is very basic. Now to get to the meat of this module. So, a majority of this book is actually room descriptions, and there's a reason for this. Time is actually pretty much run by how many rooms your character explores in the castle. So there's the tournament going on. Your character has to joust, or if you're a non-martial class, the NPC has to joust once every 2 to 3 rooms that your player character searches. Just go ahead and change this to DM's discretion. This module, there's not much there. You're going to have to build upon it. It's very video game-esque, I guess we could say. So, to the jousting part. There is 6 knights if you're running with just one player. There is rules for adjusting how many knights there are if there's more than one player. There is 2 lawful knights, there's 2 chaotic knights, and there's 2 neutral knights. Eventually, you'll go and joust each one of these knights the way the rules are currently in the module. And there's also an interesting little sort of mini game that the module has for the actual jousting. Suffice to say that no matter what happens, even if your player character ends up, losing these matches, he will eventually face off against the Black Knight. It even has a part where if your character shows up without the armor for jousting and equipment, the Black Knight will loan you the armor and equipment and the horse that you need in order to joust itself. Now, even though I said that if you lose a bunch of the matches, you still fight off against the Black Knight, there are benefits to winning the matches. You will get a certain amount of points for each joust that you win that you can use to alter how much you move, what your attack roll is, or your dexterity or strength. Now, the joust it's the side game. The actual main part of the module that you're supposed to be doing, supposedly, is searching and exploring the rest of the castle in order to find that old lady that was kidnapped from your village. By the way, her name is Gertie. So as you explore the castle, you run into all the basic bad guy elements. You have an evil shrine, there's a tomb, there's an evil cleric that is the advisor to the Black Knight. There's some lizard men, some orc guards, a lizard man like shaman, and some skeletons and zombies that are in the tomb. Oh, there's also armor golems that look like regular suits of armor that surprise the PCs or yourself. Now, eventually, they will find Gertie, the old lady, and she will also be with a younger woman named Adriana. Adriana is a magic user, and Gertie, the old lady, is an old lady that nags you the entire time after you save her and criticizes everything you do. I'm not even joking. That's what the book says she's supposed to do. She criticizes you and nags you about everything you do for the rest of the game. Now, like I said before, the book makes it so pretty much at the end you have to fight the Black Knight. John does include in the book solutions if you don't defeat the Black Knight or if you get captured by the guards, and multiple different ways to end it. In general, though, this is a pretty basic adventure. It's really basic. The one thing that makes it interesting is it's designed for one player and one dungeon master. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and go to rating the actual adventure. For an adventure rating, this is getting a 2 out of 5. The adventure is the basic Black Knight castle, save the princess, but instead of a princess, it's an old lady. There are some interesting aspects in it. The main interesting part is the minigame for jousting. That doesn't really make up for the fact of how meh the adventure is. For value, this is also getting a 2 out of 5. If you want to buy the actual physical copy, people want like $50 to $75 for this thing. It's not worth that. It's not worth that at all. You can buy the PDF from DM's Guild for $4.99, and even that's kind of pushing it. Actually, I give this a 1 out of 5. Let me change that to a 1 out of 5. It's not worth really either of those prices. Also, for deadliness factor, this is also rating a 2 out of 5. I mean, if you do really, really poorly, you could die. But it includes ways to get out of every single deadly thing that happens in the adventure. In general, this is a 2 out of 5 adventure, book, module, whatever you want to call it. You could fit it in wherever you want to, but do you really want to? It's not worth it, in my opinion. It took me a while to even make this video because it took me a while to figure out what to say about it. I could have gone over every single room in the castle, but that's not even really that interesting. There's no real heavy subplots going on here. It's really basic. And with that, I hope this helps someone out there, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.